Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We are going to be talking about software today. We are going to be talking about software as a service. We have Ajit Ghuman, who is the head of product marketing at Narvar, which is an enterprise-grade customer engagement platform that helps retailers inspire loyalty beyond reason by enabling seamless post-purchase experiences. So, Ajit, glad to be talking to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Robert.
Yeah, glad to have you. And so what is your passion these days? Like you have the software, you have this company, but what specifically in these last few months has gotten you really excited and fired up?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Actually, my profession, product marketing, has a bunch of things, including positioning and messaging. But one thing that's often found relatively hard that I've recently tried to master is pricing. And I found that that has a really huge lever in terms of helping companies get more value out of the market as well as position better. And I've consistently found that you can have the best product, great positioning, but if you don't really have the pricing structure down right, you could be leaving a lot of money on the table. So it's something I've been looking a lot more into. I also run the pricing channel for a community called Revenue Collective. So we have regular meetups and we try to figure out how to improve SaaS pricing for different companies.
Okay, and what I think is fun about some of the pricing that you see, like with SaaS products or with like services, is there's all kinds of ways to play with it, right? Like there's
Right.
like the design pickle sort of pricing where it's a monthly fee and you use it as much as you want, and a lot of these like cloud-based tools where you edit like audio or video, they'll say like you have a certain amount of credits. Like I really like Otter these
Right.
days, like a AI transcription tool, and you join and they're like, you have 9,000
Yeah.
minutes of minutes. And then when you use it up, then it resets. And so it's, so, I mean, like, what are you really going for with pricing? Is it like, are you like, is your metric like to maximize like the profit or like the number of people in the door, or you're going for like simplicity, or is it just kind of like whatever the metric is that day?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of the ways I think about it, uh, which is I think it's more upstream, right? It starts from strategy and what are you trying to do as a business. So let's say you are, Otter.ai, you are trying to reach content creators. You have a certain number of segments, right? So I'll be presumptuous if I know their business, but what I can say is that they will have a certain number of segments that create like some sort of a demand curve, and what they want to do is they want to make sure they fit really well into the segments, but they maximize revenue, right, from all of them. So enterprises will be able to pay more. They may want advanced capabilities. Individual users may be able to pay less, but they want more simple capabilities and something that's more tailored to them. So what they do is they want to create offers that really customize to your needs, right? And in such a way that they're also then able to scale their business. So instead of having to go to, let's say if they have 2 million customers, they can't talk to every one of them. They'll have specific bundles for everyone. So they'll design it that way such that they can maximize the value of the demand curve, right? So that's how they will plan their packages. And then, that's the structure. So one of the key points is if they think about the structure right and they make sure they measure the right metrics, right? If they align the value that they are providing to you to the value that you are receiving as a customer, then they unlock a lot of benefit. And finally, they will set the price point. So there's a sequential number of steps this business would do to actually come up to the right answer. And so it starts with the strategy, then the positioning, and then they're trying to make sure they're delivering value to clients and then recapturing that value on their end as much as possible.
And so I like how it's more like a strategy where it's not like exactly a straightforward answer, right? You say there's this huge amount of customers, and then we're looking for, maybe we won't capture every type of customer, but maybe there will be like 3 different blocks or 4 different blocks of like this type of person. Are they enterprise? Are they going to need these specific features, this big kind of demand, and then go from there? And so that's how you do it. And that's the right way, or like the smart way of doing it. And I imagine that a lot of people that you come across just make a guess, or maybe they're stuck in some old ways. So like that's the right way to do it. But how do companies, how do people without a strategy do this pricing, or is it just a random number, or seeing what other
Yeah,
competitors
yeah,
do or something like
that's a
that?
good question. So basically, one of two things happens, and it's not surprising, and it's not something that people are doing wrong. It's like when a company is small, if they're selling into the enterprise, the sales team will go and bespoke pricing deals to every single customer because they're still trying to figure out what is their business model, what do customers even care about. So they'll do that for a long time, but if they do it for too long, they jeopardize their own sales cycle, right? They confuse the prospects, the sales team is confused, can't scale, they get into those challenges. So what these initial phases of the company then actually at some point has to be more systematized, and our company has to create a sales engine. So that's one way this problem happens. The other way it happens is, let's say I created a consumer app today, right, like Otter.ai, and I said, well, it's $5 a month, and it's $5 a month for everyone. And then I get all these great businesses, and these businesses might be using this. One business might be using it for 10 million calls, and one customer may be using it for 10 calls a month, and everybody's paying $5 a month. So that is not scaling, right? That is not even me losing money on the table. With software, there is a phenomena called, software is sort of a Veblen good, which means enterprises may actually undervalue your product if it's too cheap. So you actually have to keep it high priced enough to even appear consistent with what they would expect for the price that they're willing to pay. So it's about really aligning your business model to your customer base, right? That's the function of a price. That's when you create a pricing model so that you can scale your sales team, so that you can align well with all of the different type of customers you have.
And as you're saying that, you're making me think about different software packages that it would feel wrong for it to be less than a certain amount. Like I feel like Photoshop feels like it costs $600 or $700, and they have the monthly price, but still it's like $53 per month. Like if Photoshop was like $4 a month, I might think a little bit less of Photoshop, and things like, Camtasia is like $300,
Right,
and
right.
like it doesn't really, there's no real $20 version of that. And so how do we, I mean, how do we kind of get that category all on its own? Because like, I mean, like Otter is like almost a verb. Camtasia, there's other like
Mhm.
lesser versions, but I still are like Photoshop, same thing. Like you Photoshop it. So
Right.
how do we get on the path towards like that uniqueness, that kind of being in our own category?
Yeah, that's a good question. So um, that's actually a question that not many people ask. But essentially, there's two type of markets, right? One market is like a blue ocean market. You start solving a problem that nobody else is solving, and then you actually even have to explain what is my product, right? Before CRM was a thing, somebody had to go and say, well, you have a sales force and they have to manage their opportunities, and they will, you have to do the whole thing again and again. So at that point, it is a lot of evangelization, and the pricing has to be then very bespoke initially when you don't have a category and there are no competing vendors. So that pricing in a world which is blue ocean tends to be more bespoke. It's a lot more about, hey, let's capture some value, but it takes a long time to stabilize the pricing. So it has benefits, but it takes time for you to get to a repeatable model. The other challenge is a model where it's extremely competitive. So customer service software has, thousands of companies now that are vying for the space. Similarly for MarTech companies or sales tech companies, there the categories are so saturated that companies are now fighting for survival and having a price war. So ideally, where you want to be, at least in my opinion, is in some sort of a renaissance market where there was an old vendor, there was an old established price point. Let's say, like let's say the oracles of the world created some category, and now you're disrupting it with a new offering. So I put markets in these three buckets, and based on the bucket you are in, your pricing approach will be very different. So in terms of you saying, category, let's define the category, there is going to take much longer for you to figure out what the price points are, because you have to discover your customers, establish the use cases across the customer base, and then understand, okay, these are my key value drivers, this is how I will set the price.
And that's a lot to think about. And even like as you explain that, it seems to me that like it's a never ending process, right? Like
Yeah,
kind of like debugging software. Eventually, the software is gonna no matter what the surrounding software or the hardware will like add some new bugs, and there's always that need to kind of reiterate it and update things. And kind of in the same idea of in our websites, we need to kind of circle back and update things every year or two. And the same, it seems like as you're talking about these things like use cases and how people are using it and how the other competitors are creeping in, and maybe if we need to be on the lookout for like some new undeveloped land, like say if you're like a CRM and there's 3,000 other CRMs out there, maybe consider a CRM for like this particular type of business or with this new feature that doesn't really exist out there. And so, yeah, it seems like from your answer, I'm getting that it never ends, and it's something we always need to be considering because the job's never quite done.
definitely, definitely. And that's actually the key point that I have realized. Many companies think of, they think of their company evolution with strategy positioning. They know that they're going to evolve over time. That's given. But when they think of something like pricing in their minds, like, oh, this is very hard, I'm going to figure out later. And in the meantime, your business is growing, your customers are changing, your landscape is changing. So my point is just think of it right next to your strategy and positioning. It's you want to relook at it every 6 months. Yes, relook at it every 6 months. Just get into the habit of doing it, and then it'll become a lot easier.
And is there ever a time when doing something stupid is a good idea? Like, is there ever a time where you want to make something that's normally paid and just make it free, or
Yeah.
make or simplify the pricing just like for the PR and attention? Anytime that's a good idea?
Well, yeah. So you could make something free for two reasons. One is for PR and attention, for sure. And I'm a marketer, so I have even raised these sort of examples in other companies before. Those sort of things are really PR stunts. They help to get some press coverage, and then they fizzle out, and you don't really get too many free customers, which you probably didn't want anyway. So that's one category. The second one is if if you are, let's say, Zoom software, right? The whole world uses you now. Then what you have is the power of a predefined funnel. You don't really need marketing anymore to go and create a funnel for you. Everybody is just using you. So if you get to a place where you're sort of the software that that has this viral component, then you just need to say, hey, this is the product. It's free to use for 15 days. Then you put them into this path. When they start using it, you say these are the certain features that you have to upgrade to. And so that's traditional, in marketing terms, it's called product-led growth. And then there are certain phases where you get qualified, and it's almost like the software team will build the marketing funnel within the product itself. So that works when you have a large market, because conversion rates for this sort of free trial software is from between 4 to 10%. And so that will only work if your cost of acquisition is really low and you have a large market.
And it seems like that's lately I've been thinking about that's a really good thing. That's a really good goal if you can make it happen, because like lately we've been using like a lot of like Asana and Slack with a
Yeah.
bunch of like with I think like 10 or 11 employees using it, and the
Yep.
free version has gotten us by. But the whole
Yep.
entire time when I log into Asana, it has these little buttons of like, if you upgrade from this
Yep.
free plan, you can get
Exactly.
all these extra bells and whistles. And it's
Exactly.
just been kind of every day I've been using this tool for
Exactly.
like 7 or 9 months, and
Yeah.
I've just been saying like, okay, I'm aware that there's something I can upgrade to. And it got to the point where like we had to upgrade, and
Right.
we were just like using this, we were so embedded in this system that even
Right.
if some other solution had even better features, it's like I'm so used to using this that
Right.
moving would be painful. So it's like that
Right.
seems like something to be on the lookout for if we can get it.
Totally. So I follow this VC who used to run the company called Yammer, David Sachs, and he has termed this. He invests in bottom-up B2B software, where they try to have consumer app-like virality based on this free sort of usage approach. You start using it, you get addicted to it, and then you start to upgrade, right? So there's definitely a new class of software that's disrupting old B2B software, which is bottom up, right? You don't go to a high level executive or decision maker. You just let the employees start using it.
So it seems like just from our a couple of conversations here today is that there's different paths and different tools in the toolbox, but it seems to hinge on where do you want to end up and what kind
Yeah.
of customers do you want. And it seems like from what your answers here is that that sort of thing can change. If you're in the complete blue ocean and you're brand new and you have no competitors, then go for the bespoke. But then as things develop, then it may make sense to move things in different directions. And to, I mean, we've been talking about all kinds of cool examples like Zoom, and it makes me curious about you personally and your company and like brands and companies that you helped. So do you have any interesting stories about that, of like some company that came to you and you worked your magic and solved a lot of problems for them?
Right. So, I only do, I'm doing this pricing work for my company. So a little bit of that is confidential. But I've been talking to a lot of pricing leaders in the Valley. And there are two examples to stand out in my mind. So I've been writing this book. I've interviewed 9 to 10 people. One example is from my last company, Help Shift, and it's when it was growing. So when we were talking, you mentioned, hey, if the CRM is very competitive, maybe we need a CRM for something else. There, the company was a mobile software for, so customer service software for mobile. Right? So most of the customer service software is like Zendesk and Salesforce. It's on the web. So this was more for like gaming apps. So gaming apps have tens of 20 million users at any given time, right? So they're all measured based on MAU or daily active users. And when you're selling to these sort of businesses, it's really the product managers who are managing these software. So, and the number of customer service agents in these companies is not very high. So what happens is if you say, hey, I just have a customer service software, I'm going to sell it to you for $50 an agent, you might just have like 20 agents in the company. You won't make any money if you're just going to do that. So what the intelligent thing that Tushar, who was the original head of sales at Help Shift, did was he realized that the company wouldn't make any money if they do per seat pricing, which is the most dogmatic way of pricing customer service technology. So he said it's going to be $100 for 100,000 MAU. And now that perfectly aligns with the value that the product manager sees, because according to the product manager, the success of their product is based on the MAU. So these apps have tens and millions, millions and tens of millions of MAU. That resulted in the same account having 10x more revenue in this MAU based model than the per agent model, right? And that was justifiable. The customer agreed with it. And that drove the company's revenue growth to almost $20 million. So there are like these fundamental things. If you understand your market correctly and you pull the right levers, so this is a very important lever, like the pricing variable, then you can really make a lot of movement, right? So I often say it's not about the price point, but it's about the structure that you put in place and how you communicate it to the customers.
And when you're explaining that like they kind of changed the I don't know, like the unit of measurement of the pricing, it's like
Yeah,
it's not just a number, right? Some people like get hung up on, well, should this be $700 or
exactly.
$900?
Exactly.
Well, you can think in a whole other dimension because you can
Right.
be having a different underlying metric. And what it reminds me of is the whole when the iPod came out, right? They didn't say it was 5 GB; they said it was 300 songs. And it's like, okay, well, that makes more sense. I can get my head around that. Even though we both, us tech guys, we know they chose some arbitrary
Right.
number,
Right.
right? They
Right.
said a song is 10 megabytes. We'll just split it up by that.
Right.
But that's really interesting that customer with that customer support solution it had, instead of charging per agent, you charge per user. So yeah, I mean that's a great example of us like being aware of these things that can be done, and thinking outside the box, and in a way that like makes us more money, gets us more attention, and maybe even from your answers here, like connects us to the buyers that we might not have had because they were looking for the pricing to be in that sort of unit. So yeah. So now that we're kind of wrapping up and winding down on our conversation, what do you want us to be aware of today? Like after our discussion, is there a place to sign up and get alerted about your book when it's coming out, or a way to get in touch with you, or what's the next step here?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So my website is ajitghuman.com. And you can find, when you land on there, you'll see a link to the pricing book. If you put in your email, I'll make sure I send you a discount when the book is out. Hopefully, this is end of February, so it will be out sometime in March. And if you put in your email address, I will make sure, or just connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Ajit Ghuman, so should be easy enough to find. What I do want to leave with, my agenda here is more that instead of relying on consulting companies that come in and do this one-time projects, I want to train product managers and CEOs to just do this on their own. It's not really hard. It's just a little bit of a mental block many times. If you get over it and you know what the sequence of steps you need to take, you can do it on your own.
Fantastic. So
Yeah.
to spell that website out, that is AJITGHUMAN, AjitGhuman.com. You can find out about what Ajit has going on, look him up on LinkedIn, and sign up for that book. And you have an opportunity, Ajit, to do some fun pricing with the book. Like what comes to mind is Seth Godin said, you can't buy one copy of my book, you have to buy 10 copies. So then you give it to your friends. And anything in the works there as far as a unique pricing model for your book?
Some it's like it's always easier to do counseling for somebody else than to yourself. So I think I'm also a victim of that. I need to think better about my own marketing strategies. I have a hypothesis, and so let's see.
Okay, well, good. You'll keep us waiting.
Yeah.
AjitGhuman.com is the place to go to find out what brand new, innovative, crazy good techniques Ajit has coming out as far as pricing and getting the word out there about your product. AjitGhuman.com. Thanks, Ajit, for stopping by. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.